Welcome back to Streamlit. This tutorial series is part 11, which is on execution flow. In this tutorial, we're going to cover dialogues, fragments, reruns, stops, and a little bit of forms. So let's get started. First, we're going to take a look at dialogue, which creates a modal dialogue that can be triggered on action, like a button. To do this, we're going to make a little function called show dialogue and then call that function when the button is pressed. Oh, it looks like I have a bad character in there somewhere. Where is that? Oh, there it is. When it shows the dialogue, we call the button, which displays this. And then if the user submits a name, then it displays it. James, submit, hello, James. So the flow that's happening is the button triggers the function above it. And then after that button is clicked, you enter your submit button, then it triggers the write. Now, if we do that again, but do not enter a name, it just gives us a hello. You could do some more control flow to maybe just have it not display anything or give a warning pop-up. But this is a little simple example. This section, we're going to take a look at fragments. Fragments are part of Streamlit apps, and they allow you to run and optimize your code in particular ways. So they allow you to run only specific scopes of your code or like a method of your code when a user input is detected. It's actually just easier to show you. So fragment uses this declarator st, the @st over a method. And then within this, we have let me just clean this up. We have a counter and then a button that will rerun the fragment if the button is clicked. So what this is going to do is only count if the fragment is rerun. But if the full rerun is run, it will not add to the counter. To illustrate this, we can update the counter right below it and then refresh the page. And then we have the counter at 0. If you hit the fragment, it will update. And then if you hit the full app rerun, nothing will happen. So the only real difference between a rerun and a fragment rerun is basically just this scope, which looks for the declarator and then knows what method to watch for user inputs and also to rerun when a user input is detected. That is basically how you use fragments. They're actually super important though, because Streamlit loves to rerun its apps every change, so it can really give you some performance increases. Rerun is exactly how it sounds. It reruns the entire app, but keeps its state, which is important. When you refresh the page, it will not keep its state. When you saw us do this increment and then rerun, you see how it keeps the state, but if you refresh the page, you lose the counter. We also are going to take a look at stop, which halts the execution of the code at a certain point. If a warning message is shown or you want to halt the code to make sure they can't get past authentication. This is useful when debugging and controlling some specific aspects of flow. So you add a little checkbox, basically like a breakpoint, and then you do, if checked, basically stop the code, and then once the code is unchecked, this will execute, or this will actually be the normal execution. If you go down, it's showing the lower section, and then when you click stop, it will show you the stop. If you stop it here and then peek at some variables in a console, you can determine what's going on with your state at that specific point. It's extremely useful. Next up, we have forms. A form is a container that visually groups other elements and widgets together and contains a submit buttons. When a form submit button is pressed, all widget values inside the form will be sent to Streamlit in a batch. There are a few constraints with forms. First is all forms need to have a submit button. I'll start throwing the code in here while I talk about the constraints. Each form must have a submit button. If it doesn't, it will give you an error. A form cannot contain a button or a download button. Forms can appear anywhere in the app and sidebar, but they cannot be embedded inside another form. Within a form, the only callback widget that can be used is the submit button, hence why other buttons aren't allowed. To implement a form, I typically just do a with form, and then everything in here is just normal STN. And then we have the submit button right here. We store all the data into a session variable for accessing later. And then the submit button's pressed. We're gonna print that session information, calling session state, and then the variable name. To show this, we can just do Tim22, and it will print out Tim22. Let's try to add some of these control execution flow elements together. Let's try to combine a dialog with a form to create a pop-up form that you submit your user, the same form as above, submit your user and your age, and then hit submit. It will do the printout again, but put the form inside the dialog. If you want, pause the video and then come back to it and I'll have the answer. So basically, we create this complex dialog by throwing a form inside of the dialog. This be kind of like our component with a submit button. When submit is pressed, the dialog result is set to a dictionary of name and age, and then we hit rerun. Down here, this is just the dialog. If the button is pressed, it shows the dialog box. And then when we hit submit, these variables will be set. Then it will run the printing of the name and the dialog results. We'll just add a clear button to rerun that. To see this in the code, let me clear results first. Okay. Just make up a name, Liz, and 22. And when you hit enter, it will print that out. To clear it again, you just hit submit. But you could do a little bit more control flow to ensure they are submitting correct data, but this is just an easy little one. I don't really feel like putting the time to add all those if statements. But yep, that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video today. Up next, we have either caching or state management. I might combine them into a single video. And after that, we have connections and secrets. I honestly might combine all of those into one video. I'm sick of doing these videos. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time.